1 sec here. Yo, how you doing, Ba? You guys can hear me? Okay, yeah, I see there's Cypress. What's going on? How we doing? What's up, Mello? Announce that we are live. We doing? How we doing? A little bit. Get everyone in here. Usual. Son, Kaladin, how you doing? Crypto RHJ. Morning, good morning. And all these PFPs that Mello has done are insane. Absolutely nuts. I'm gonna have to get a custom one done up too. Mine's just an old picture he had, but I'm trying to get something sick made up. Give a few more minutes here. Ed, how you doing? Entry or Big Granty, however you say that. D Marie. Doing? How's the week been? Open on my phone so I can see. All right, a few more minutes here. Average week. Yeah, it's been choppy. It's been difficult. Always happens though. We had that big move up, and then we're just consolidating here under a big resistance. So it's a bit hard to do anything other than scalp right now. Either look to like get long for real, like lower, or if we actually flip the resistance. But I mean, anything too big in size or too much of like a directional bet here for the upside is a bit difficult. If we sweep Monday's low, Bitcoin give us some good opportunities if we hold, but for the first part of this little range we've had up here, altcoins have been actually going pretty crazy. Been nice, but the last like 2-3 days have honestly been so choppy. I figure it's the perfect time to go over play or how to look for and identify breakout trades using the bots, because we do have a few bots that can really help you guys find those. With Bitcoin dominance making as big of a move down as it did, we've seen altcoins just going absolutely crazy. So you have like invalidations on those, or are you just holding those? Grantee. Always have some sort of invalidation stop loss so that you don't get stuck in trades. So that can end up really bad. Yeah, you should be careful doing that in the future. Like I suggest, like obviously, I hope you get out of these ones, but in the future, like you should always have a stop loss or invalidation. And if it's like a futures trade, I mean, typically it's no more than like 5%. Where if it goes there, your trade's invalidated because you can end up in a bad situation with things like that. And I mean, I've done that before too when I first started. Sometimes it does not end well, and you just have to be aware of that. All right, another minute or two here, and we'll go on the live, and we can dive in. Nice. If you're over risked, I suggest just de-risking some when you actually get up into profits there. Obviously, everything's up to you at the end of the day. Definitely a choppy and difficult place where we're at currently. Have any sort of clear read. Panda's got the new PFP too. Yeah, that's nice. So crazy. Right. I'm going to share my screen here. Market review. There's not much to review. Like I said, it's been definitely super choppy where we're at. And then we can dive into the bots, how you can use those to look for breakout trades. Let me share here. Give me a sec. I know if you guys can see it, should be able to now. All right, sweet. Oh, damn, Red Thunder's PFP is crazy too. That might be one of my favorite ones I've seen so far. Man, Big Mello kills it with the AI stuff. Every single GM post you guys see is all Mello. Taco's got a sick one too. Sourcing Panda. Crazy. It really is. Cool. So these levels here are just levels from the indicator. I just have these on here. Like I said, when you have the indicator, it's going to be really, really helpful for giving you guys ranges. Clearly identify range levels for you. But that's all Bitcoin's been doing for the past, 3 days now. We have Monday's range, which was formed, which is the extremes here. We have the high up here and the low down here. They were both kind of pokes outside of the range and pops back in. And since then, we've just been inside of it with neither side getting tagged. We front ran it, a few times on Monday's low, front ran it a bit on Monday's high. And so it's been a bit difficult. Makes it a lot easier to position into trades if you sweep Monday's high and reject, or if you were to sweep Monday's low and reclaim. You have high confidence and easy invalidation longs to target each other side of the range. These red lines here are some liquidity on Bitcoin. So if we go over here, I'll just show you guys where I have these from. So they're just like some liquidity up here that I am assuming when we run Monday's high, we'll probably tag into. And so it makes it easy if we were to push up, sweep Monday's high, take some of this liquidity, and then start closing back inside the range. You could short anything you wanted with stops and invalidation above here, and the same with Monday's low, right? If we actually come down, sweep out here, sweep out Monday's low, have a nice reaction, it gives you clear invalidation to take some longs. Whereas if we come down here and we even front run this, it's yeah, you can take longs, but it's the likelihood of us also just ending up running those lows and probably taking stops is a lot higher. So positioning becomes a bit difficult, and so same Monday's high. That's why it's been a little bit tough to actually reliably take anything with high conviction. It's more just, scalping in between where you can, sweeps like this. Just little liquidity sweeps everywhere. You had the SFP down here at range lows. Just little things, right? Like, doesn't give you much. You kind of have to take what you can. The nice thing has been that Bitcoin dominance has been nuking quite hard from, actually, just go here. So Bitcoin dominance itself has been nuking from up here in this channel that I had marked out a while ago. We made a significant move down on Bitcoin dominance, like very significant for the first time in a while. Like, we were just trending up. This is a 4-hour chart. Like, we were just grinding up. Alts were getting destroyed. It just wasn't even fun trying to trade anything. And then we retested perfectly into this support here and had a really nice bounce. And since the last 3 days, this is where altcoins have been difficult to trade again. This is where things have been super choppy and uncertain. And one healthy thing is, when you are in a range like this, what you do want to see is Bitcoin dominance rise, as unfortunate as it is for trading alts, because what that means is that more liquidity is now going into Bitcoin. So if you have this rise in dominance here, and say we even trend up here, retest this or something, it's like this rising leg in dominance is actually healthy, because it means alts are going to suffer a lot, which means that the money and liquidity from altcoins is being moved into Bitcoin. So the actual dominance of Bitcoin itself is rising, which is good, because in this range here, we want to see this be like a reaccumulation and break higher, as opposed to be like a distribution phase where we end up breaking lower. So, as unfortunate as it is, it's good to understand the dynamics between Bitcoin dominance and what it can mean in a range. So you want to see Bitcoin dominance rise in something like this. You get your move up on Bitcoin, and then we range out like this, and whatever, say at like this period here, dominance goes down, and you get ETH and alts doing their catch up, going crazy, and then say you have like, dominance rising again here, and then okay, you get your next leg up, and then for this chunk here, you have dominance severely dropping off as Bitcoin ranges and money flows into ETH and alts, and then whatever, dominance rises again here, and then hopefully we continue to break up. But that's to be seen. We'll see what happens. But it's important to understand that ETH has been much stronger. ETH finally had a really, really nice move. Broke out of this little range here. And just an absolute ripper, right? Like, this went 50%, like just absolutely insane. And now we've kind of found this range here as well. So we're kind of ranging out here. This is a huge daily supply level. Coffee machine's going off in the back, if you wonder what that noise is. But this is a huge daily supply level. Like, if you take a look at the charts, you can see this daily supply that led to the most recent breakdown. So it is a massive level, and you also have the daily level from the indicator. So if we flip this level in line with Bitcoin flipping out of its range, and say we sweep some of these lows and we flip this range, Bitcoin's heading towards all-time high. Like, there's no doubt about it. This is kind of the last resistance before we actually end up trending towards all-time high and higher. So, like, when you really look at the chart zoomed out, like, we're 5.5% away from all-time high. Like, it's pretty crazy. And then you look at ETH, ETH has a lot of catch up to do, which is great. ETH's still like 45. That's not even, it's another 50% away. So, if we flip this level on ETH and we flip that level on Bitcoin, everything is going to lag up massively once again, the same way it did here. But for now, we're under resistance, like massive resistance on both, and we're chopping around. So putting any sizable directional bets on the upside becomes a bit difficult. unless you get, sweeps. And then it's like you have your invalidation to at least target here, and then, if you flip, sweep. But putting any sort of size on at mid-range obviously is never recommended, because, these are a magnet before we go higher, most likely, is taking out range lows. So just ranging right now, good opportunities will come fading either side of the range or not fading it, whichever happens. It's the same thing, right? Sweep, reclaim, or sweep, fail to hold. And, we go lower and fill some of this gap in here. But in here, it's a bit difficult. And I'm assuming this weekend's probably going to be choppy, just the way that dominance is looking, which is unfortunate because some of the last weekends have been pretty fun when dominance was dropping. But soon enough, we'll have weekends where, dominance is dropping continuously and weekends are just tons of fun with altcoins. But in this most recent leg up, we actually had finally, like I said, Bitcoin dominance drop off in a big way. And altcoins went absolutely crazy, like crazy. I'm talking like large caps going, 20, 30, 50%, tons of coins just going 200, 300, 400%. Like things just went absolutely ballistic. And the crazy part is, if you look at the weekly chart, on dominance, like look at how little we've actually dropped in comparison to where we can go. It's at some point it's going to get so ridiculously silly when this actually starts to like break this weekly trend line. Like when we actually come down and break this, we had a 5% drop, and it's like, this thing can go way further down. And you look at the inverse of like what ETH BTC is, and ETH BTC can go way up. Like go ETH BTC. Like ETH BTC has been trending down since September 2022. Like just insane. We're the lowest it's ever been, I do believe, on weekly RSI. Yeah, the lowest we've ever been. Massive bounce here. Like it looks really good so far. But we want to see continuation. We want to see this hold. But, this most recent breakout has been super healthy. Now, if we can hold these levels and continue higher, things look really, really good. So it's getting close to the point where, they call it altcoin season, no sleep season, where we are quickly approaching that. And we kind of just had a little taste of that for, literally just a few days. My thing frozen? Oh, okay, we're good. So they're super, super exciting times ahead. All of the big heads and the smart people who've been in the space for a long time that I listen to in WG and have learned from in my trading journey, have similar thoughts that this summer we can see, maybe a month or two of altcoin season where it isn't just the classic sell in May and walk away. It's more of, Bitcoin dominance dies off and altcoins go absolutely parabolic for like a good amount of time. So, it's important to be putting in the work now and learning all the skills necessary for whichever way you trade, whichever bots you want to use, getting involved in the community and networking, all of these things before things actually really take off so that you can take full advantage of that time, because there will be just, specific time period windows where like you want to just literally sleep 2-3 hours a night because things are just going 20, 10, 50%, 100% in a day, both on chain and in altcoins. And so you want to take as much advantage of that as you can. Hopefully we get an actual parabolic move on Bitcoin first. Yeah, absolutely. And that's like, when you think about it, like I said, Bitcoin is only 5.5% away from all-time high. All of the macro landscape lines up really nicely with China and USA trade deals coming to some agreements, a lot of other countries, rate cuts not yet, but in the near future something might happen with those. Like all the catalysts are there, right? There's know more like, okay, well, what's going to happen with tariffs and what's going to happen when Trump first gets into office and what's going to happen with Russia, Ukraine. It's like lots of the macro headwinds have been sort of figured out. And it always happens, right? Like that always happens. And then you find a bottom and then the macro tailwinds start coming in, deals start getting made, wars start getting settled, yada, yada, yada. And you're just going to see the whole game theory of Bitcoin start playing out too, right? Like you have MicroStrategy buying ungodly amounts of Bitcoin. You have big companies talking about putting it on their balance sheets, which means every other big company will start putting it on their balance sheets because they're going to have to. And so the whole game theory of countries and, businesses like Apple and all these people putting it on their balance sheets in countries and states in the US and yada, yada, it's all going to start taking effect. And it's like, we've never been in an environment where Bitcoin is actually playing out exactly as it should be and on like a global scale recognized by presidents and countries and stuff. So it really is just going to get a lot more silly than it is at this moment. How crazy it gets, I don't know. Like I said, I've only been around since the last top of the bull market and then experienced the bear market. And so I haven't even been through a full bull market before. But I don't know. I've learned a lot about this space and I've been around a lot of really, really smart people. And yeah, I think things are just going to get absolutely crazy. So a lot of exciting times ahead. But that's kind of a market overview. Does anyone have any questions on Bitcoin, ETH, or anything like that? Does Bitcoin usually go sideways during altcoin season? Yeah, 100%. So what'll happen is Bitcoin will do this. It'll have its phase where, let me do this example first. So Bitcoin will do this in the red. And then when Bitcoin does the green, so when Bitcoin does the red, it's Bitcoin's game. All eyes on Bitcoin. Like, Bitcoin's king. Dominance is probably rising. Money's flowing into Bitcoin. That causes this lag. Bitcoin then will range out just like this. And you'll get money flowing from Bitcoin into Ethereum and then into altcoins. It's like a phase. Like phase one's Bitcoin. Phase two, it'll start to range out. It has buyers and sellers. There's not a whole lot of new money. People are just accumulating. And then this period here is when ETH will do this lag. And then ETH will start to range out a bit. And then altcoins will do this lag. And then, dominance will start to rise again. Money will start to flow out of the alts, out of ETH, back into Bitcoin. And then Bitcoin will do the red phase again. Right? So just like we've seen. And Bitcoin, all eyes on Bitcoin. Bitcoin's king. You want to be trading Bitcoin. Dominance is absolutely cooking at this point. Like we go to dominance, dominance is doing this. And then as we start to range out, you have the green period, which we just seen. And then, ETH starts to do this. And then ETH does its giant move, and then altcoins at the same time are also doing this. And then just like you're seeing now, dominance starts to rise again. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Talisman. That's exactly the chart that you need to understand. So money flows into Bitcoin in this red section here, if you guys are looking at the thing that he just shared in chat. Then we go into the green phase where money is now flowing from Bitcoin. Dominance of Bitcoin is going down, ETH BTC is going up, and money is flowing into ETH and altcoins. That's like your phase two. Then money, after ETH does its move, will start ranging the same as Bitcoin. So Bitcoin and ETH will start ranging, and then large caps will start going like ADA and Sol and SUI and XRP and all of this. And then they'll start ranging out, and then it'll trickle down into like your shit coins like Hippo and Moodang and all these coins, and they'll start going parabolic and doing 50 to 100% moves, blah, blah, blah. And then everything will just, stop and money will start flowing back into Bitcoin like we're seeing now. Altcoins are super shitty to trade the last 2-3 days. And money's now flowing back into Bitcoin. And, soon enough, hopefully we get the next red phase up and out. range again, and on it goes. So it's super important to understand that little graphic that he shared there. Yeah, I think phase two, like just dipping our toes in currently. I do think that we'll probably still get a rather large, I don't know if Bitcoin dominance, like it might actually be topped. It's hard to say. But at some point, we will most likely get a big blow off on Bitcoin. And maybe it'll just be dominance putting in a higher low as opposed to making a new high, which would be nice. It definitely seems like the ETH BTC bottom is in and the BTC dominance top is potentially in. So I mean, I definitely wouldn't be complaining if that was the case. Just clean this chart up a bit. No, we just been going over the market overview there, Kirby. So anyone else have any questions on Bitcoin, ETH, or kind of like the flow cycle of money before we hop into the bots? But if you are trading right now too, I just suggest lowering your size. Just use less risk. Be very aggressive on your take profits. You know, something else I've talked about in the past, which I think is very important to understand, is you need to understand when we're ranging and when we're trending. When we're trending, the whole market's making these big moves and you're TPing, you know, TP1 can be 5 or 10% and then 10, 20%. And, you know, you're taking less off. In this, you're like 2%, you should be taking a take profit and like moving stops, or 3% and, you know, taking 50 to 75% off at TP1 because it's just going to round trip. You're just going to get stop break even. It's like just stack those little wins, stack the 1-2% gains on your port every single day. Don't be looking for 5-10% moves, even on like even breakouts right now. It's like I was looking at them. It's like a terrible day to go over this, but every single breakout is just going up and trapping buyers and just completely fading and dumping. And so you have to be just insanely aggressive right now, or you're going to round trip everything. You're going to just, you know, be bashing your head off the wall trying to like catch these moves, and it's just not working out. I'm sure at some point NFTs will. I personally don't know much about NFTs myself. They're definitely like somewhat of a dead technology in the past compared to what they were, but I do think they'll have a resurgence at some point for sure. And I do think there are other very viable use cases for the actual technology itself. How are you able to identify and differentiate between the two? Honestly, Demon, it's just backtesting. It's like, first of all, it becomes very obvious when you just go and look at a chart, right? It's like, obviously this phase is different from this phase. So I'll just do this like green. So green is obviously different from blue. Right? So just at face value, you can easily be able to see that like these are different. And so like you just need to go into the charts and you need to understand which one is which, and then you just need to like understand. First of all, I have videos on how to trade ranging and how to trade trending. Def able to tell in hindsight, and we're currently ranging from what it seems. But what about in the case of a blowout? Do you just take that risk? Yeah, so like a range will form, and like you don't know it's a range immediately. So in terms of what you're saying, like a range will form. You'll have like, let's use the current range we're in. Just gonna get rid of this. So you'll have a clear point at some time where, you know, you will see that there is a spot where buyers are stepping in and price doesn't go below, and there's a spot where sellers are stepping in and price just isn't going below. So, that could be when price has formed this much price action here. And so you're not going to identify it right away and be like, okay, we're in a range, because no one knew we were ranging here, right? We need to see price come down, and we need to see buyers step in, and we need to see it come back to a level where sellers will step in and then buyers will step in again, right? So now we can identify that range. And so the thing is like, you literally just play the range until proven otherwise. So it seems like it's hard psychologically to do, because every time it comes here, you think it's going to break out. And so does everyone else. That's the point of the range. They make you feel like, okay, this is the time, we're going to break out. And then it fades back down. And then sellers are trapped in a wick just like this. And then comes back and it's like, oh shit, it's all over. We're breaking down. We're going to 80K, whatever. And it does this. And so you can operate by trying to catch the Pico bottoms and tops. It's more advanced. Or you can just wait for confirmations. You can just wait for, say, this. You can wait for like these to happen, where price comes up, whatever, you sweep here, you either get like a 30 or 50-minute div or something, or you just get like a hourly SFP. You can fade that with stops above, because most likely if you flip that, right, you're at least going to trend up into those other highs or something. Same with down here. If you come down and maybe you form a div, that can be a trigger to enter with invalidation below. Or you come down, you sweep it and you put like an hourly SFP, or even just reclaim here. It's like, okay, I'll take the trade here, stops below here, or, enter when you get like your confirmed SFP here. So you can wait for confirmations at the range highs and range lows. You don't have to like just fade it just because it's gone up there. But yeah, you let price action develop a bit, and it'll form your clear range. And then from there, you can like just play it each way, because we probably range for some time unless we actually sweep Monday's high. We can even just do that, right? You create two new extremes, and then your range just keeps going for some time until something like FOMC or CPI or big news event comes out, or whatever that causes enough momentum for either buyers to break out to the upside or sellers to break down to the downside. But I'd say just play the range till it breaks, because most likely you get 3, 4, 5, 6 plays in the range, whether you're playing Bitcoin or altcoins or whatever. And then one time, whatever, you'll take a stop. But even if you take the stop on something like this, right? Okay, so let's just do this. You sweep the lows there and you take a play here. Okay, and price comes down and you get stopped. You can pretty verifiably bet that like we're gonna go down now and test lower into like 98, right? So you can look to then short with invalidation back acceptance into the range. So there's ways to like know that like, yeah, you took a stop, but like, okay, we're breaking the range. And the longer the range goes, if it's like a 2 or 3 month range, or even 4 to 5 week range, you don't fade that when it breaks, right? You go with the trend, the same way that like all the people who faded this like vertical accumulation range here, they faded it when it broke. It's like you don't fade that, whether it's to the downside or to the upside. Price action over here was super gross, but like even this range here, it's like when this actually definitively breaks, you don't fade that. You just go with the trend, because you're going to trend for a while. It's the same thing. Like if you break out and you even had like a nice retest here of this range, right? Like you don't short this. This is where you play trending. You just long, you play breakouts, you hold your longs until you make a new range, whatever, right? But I mean, yeah, that's a bit on ranging. I have videos in the education section on ranging and trending as well, if that helps. All right, so let's take a look at let me just get my old chart back. Yeah, and like I said, just go back and back test, just find ranges. put the range high, put the range low, whatever triggers you use, whether that's divergences, SFPs, supply demand, lower time frame, structure breaks or changes of structure, things like that. Just literally just go back and play with the ranges. Spend an hour or two doing that, and the next time we are in a range, you'll be able to understand it, especially if you journal it, and you'll be able to actually implement what you've learned through 1 or 2 hours of back testing to actually make money or save money when the next time we range. Yeah, exactly. And that's why these H4, H1, I haven't drawn these. These are the bot levels. That's what I'm telling you guys. These bot levels for identifying when we are in a range are going to be so useful, and I'll have videos and stuff on it. Even ETH, ETH has just all H4 levels. We broke above because ETH was stronger, but it's you can see rejected range highs, rejected mid range, come down to range lows, rejected range highs. It makes it very easy, and these levels also update in real time. So they'll be forming the most relevant levels for you, and you'll be able to very easily see without eyeballing shit yourself that okay, we're clearly in a range. And if we flip this H4 level with candle closures outside, blah, 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 probably breaking the range and so on and so forth. But it is difficult to know that you're ranging. But at the same time, you just have to understand that at some point after a parabolic move, we're going to range. That's just the way price action works. Price can't go up or down forever, because what happens here in a range, you have to understand what price action is actually telling you. In a range, you have buyers and sellers that are at the level that they're at, which causes the range, right? Sellers are willing to step in here. Buyers are willing to step in here. This causes the range. At some point, you're going to break that, and until it finds the next value area where actual sellers are willing to step in, people are taking profits, and people are willing to rebuy and whatnot, you're going to form that range. But it can't just go up forever. So you have to understand that after a parabolic move, you should be, and it's not just going to BART down like this. Yeah, that can happen, but it doesn't typically do that. And it's all about context. You have all this positive news and stuff. You shouldn't expect us to just BART right back down, or that's absolutely terrible sign for the market. So you just need to understand that okay, we just had a parabolic move. At some point, we're going to form a range. So you just have to be aware of it and realize that okay, look at all these 1 hour tests here. Okay, we held here one time, comes back, holds here, right? It's okay, maybe this is a range high, comes back, holds here. Okay, I can put my test range here and understand that these candles are telling me that sellers step in here and buyers step in here. So, we could range for the next few weeks here, and you could identify it now and take advantage of that. But it is hard when it's happening. I agree. All right. So in terms of bots for breakouts, there's two bots which I think are going to be the most useful for people, and I can look at examples and stuff as well. Because right now, like I said, today's literally the worst day probably possible for these breakouts, because every single one I looked at is just price popping up, trapping buyers, and then we just sell off, and it's just terrible. What you're going to want to use is volume, and you're going to want to use gainers and losers. They're going to be your most useful tools, and people who actually trade breakouts religiously inside of Wealth Group also use these exact tools as well. So gainers and losers is going to show you which coins are strong. So obviously top gainers on the minute, this is going to show you the coins that are moving. 15 minutes is probably your best bet. Going to show you which coins are going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% past 5 minutes or 15 minutes, which can indicate to you that the coin is clearly strong, or there's something to take a look at with this coin. So top 50-minute gainers looks. Let's just take a look. And like I said, today is the worst possible day for breakouts, but let's just say that our price action was here when we were having this, right? So you need to identify where your actual spot that you're looking for to be flipped on a breakout is. And this will come from going through Woods' like education stuff. And if Talisman can like share that over, that'd be great in the chat there. But let's just go. So let's just say like price action was here when we're getting this volume notification, for example's sake, since the market's shit right now. So everyone's going to have different ways of identifying the spot that they want flipped, you know, and it's as simple as order blocks, supply, demand, levels, even wicks. Like you can do wicks. Like there's different ways for people to identify it, right? So even if you looked at like, you know, these wicks, right? Every time price comes up, it rejects. Price comes up, it rejects. You want to see a candle closure above, that means you're going to break out after sweeping these wicks. So I'll show two different ways of doing it, but I usually use like supply or order blocks. You know, this was the last up candle before the impulsive move down, which broke structure to the downside. And so I know that this is a strong supply, and you can see exactly what happens when price comes up into it and tests it for the first time. You get that rejection. But for the example's sake, let's just say that this here, our top gainers 15 minutes, when you clicked it, shows looks going 1.64%. Now let's say that this was the price action here. So looking at the bot, you can see that looks is one of the top gaining coins currently. And price looks like this. So you're coming into the area that was previously rejected. It looks like it has potential to actually try and flip. If we look at volume, you know, volume's okay. It's nothing significant. And then if we like play this through, okay, you can see volume starting to increase. You know, you get the big candle spike volume. And right here, we're now closing above, right? So you had the indication, first of all, that the bot's telling you that like looks is one of the top gainers. Okay. Now you're looking at volume, you're looking at your level, you want to be flipped, and you're seeing that like, okay, you know, if this candle closes above the level after sweeping this looks good. The bot's told me this is one of the top gainers, and now I have triggers for a breakout. And so you can play that through. And you know, you get your candle closures above the level, and you'd be in the trade. And, you know, on it goes, catch a big move. And if you miss the first move, you can look for the retest back into the level that was previously flipped. You can see volume just perfect. It's increasing. It's exactly what you want. And on it goes. And like maybe also, for example's sake, when you see this, you see the volume increasing to the upside. Maybe when you go and check the bots, check volume, because the highest, like in breakouts, like volume is probably the most important thing. It doesn't matter if you're flipping the level and you don't have volume. Yeah, you might get a move up, but it doesn't matter. Statistically, you're not going to get moves up on low volume compared to having volume. So if you come into volume, and for example's sake, let's just say looks is in here as well. So looks is one of the top gainers, and you also have looks as one of the highest volume coins. And you can see the volume rising. You've got your flip of your level, and you know, on it goes. And so that's how you can use these bots, is just search highest volume, and you know, whatever. These are always going to be the highest volume coins for the most part. Things like fart coins, Sui, XRP, Doge. These are not what you're looking for. You're looking for like, you know, HMSTR, hamster. Like, why is this shitcoin in the top, you know, 25 coins in the entire market for volume? Something's happening with that, right? So it's like, let's take a look. So if we go to it, and again, like the market's just disgusting right now, so the examples are going to be a little bit different. But like, let's just say, that like when you go to it, it's right here. And this chart's just ugly, but again, we'll just use it for an example. So let's just say that like when you go to hamster, like we just did, you see it and it's right around here. We go to lower time frames at our level. So it's a 2-hour block here. And let's, for the example's sake, say right here is where you're seeing that the volume's really high. And okay, here's your initial test into that supply here. This was a 2-hour block. We're just on lower time frames to execute. Let's say that was your first test. You get your rejection and you come back up. What you're looking for on a breakout is the candle closure above. Like this closes above, right? You can see this wicks into it. It's the same thing. This does not close above it. This you can see that the price is getting absorbed. People are selling into it or taking profit, whatever, and it pushes the price down. You get a wick. It doesn't matter that this wick is above. What you want for confirmation is this candle here, closing above. Even this candle is not confirmation. Comes up, sweeps this wick, you close below. That's not confirmation. You get this candle closure above. There's your confirmation for the long. So hamster, for example's sake, again, you come into the bots, you're looking, you're like, these coins are going to be on there. And then you see hamster and you're like, okay, well, what the hell is this coin and why is it in the top volume for all these coins? So you go to it and say it's here. And you're closing this candle above your level that you're looking to have flipped, okay? It's one of the highest volume coins in the market. That's a great trigger. That's exactly what you want to see. So you could look to take this play, have your stops below here or below here and, catch this breakout trade. But the bots are going to help you identify and cut the noise of you trying to figure out what coins have volume or what coins are the actual top gaining coins in the market at the time. And all you got to do is just, look around, just go to the 5-minute, check them out. Just go look at these different coins like Rex. I know someone from WG has been playing Rex. Like, it's one of the, and again, these coins are just absolutely cooked today. So, like, can't even look at this one. It's whatever. But when you say confirmation closed above that area of interest, would you say it has to be above a certain time frame, like 30 minutes minimum? No, not at all. Not at all. So it can be whatever time frame you are looking at. For example, like we can just go the 5-minute. So you can do this on any time frame. So let's just see, where is price action? So it can be any time frame. Like this little 5-minute block, I like to use, I'd say lowest time frame. If you're new, just don't go on low time frames because everything gets more convoluted and difficult on lower time frames, like supply and demand. And like if you're looking for supply and demand on 5-minute versus looking for supply and demand on the hourly, it's going to get more tricky and it's more advanced. But you can do this on any time frame, right? Like this was the last, I consider this supply. You can see that this was the last up block before we had this impulsive move down. That tells me that like buyers tried to push this up, sellers completely overwhelmed buyers, nuked them, meaning that like this here is supply. You can see we came and we tested it, and even here it's like you get closures above it. Yeah, and then what happens, right? You flip the level. You get closures above, you come down. What happens when we test into it? It's now demand. It's now demand. You have structurally like low time frame, higher low, test into it again, it becomes demand. So you can use this on any time frame. But the only way that you guys are going to actually figure out how this works is by going into the charts and back testing all of this. Like it's as simple as this, right? It's everywhere. It's all fractal. Look at this. This is the 5-minute demand. If you go to the 5-minute, this was the 5-minute last down candle before the impulsive move up that had increasing volume. This to me is demand. This is strong. If you go to 15-minute, you'll have a 15-minute block there, right here. It just depends how granular you want to get. But like, look what happens when price comes back into it. If you missed this move up, even if you had the breakout trade mapped out, you could then understand that this is demand. You could have your orders in here with a stop, whatever, here. And look, price comes in, you get absolutely a beautiful reaction because this was a breakout on rising demand. This is a strong block. There was a lot of buyers here. These buyers aren't just going to want price to nuke back through it. Like, this is where, if price comes down, there's bids sitting here. There's orders sitting here. Fills them. You can see this wick. On you go. So you just have to go in and understand that you can do it on any time frame. If you're new, I suggest just doing 15, 30 minute and 1 hour. Play around with those. And if it's a 15-minute supply, you need a 15-minute closure above, 30-minute closure above, so on and so forth. And these blocks, like, just look at price action. Just go play in charts, because this is what happened the first time. You can see demand here. It still tried to hold it, but like this coin was just nuking. And then what happens? This becomes an order block. Now when price tests into it, it just sells off. It's the same thing. If you come and you flip this level, it's going to go higher. But now it's resistance. Like, you'll start to see all these things on the charts, and it'll just become like second nature the more you play around. Because even if we go here, back to our 30-minute block, look, it's the same thing. Probably have a divergence here. Yeah, like you can just see it. You have a divergence here. I didn't even have my RSI on. And you can just see that, like, you know, this was flipped. You know, this was demand. After it was flipped here and closed above, buyers took control back from sellers. Here it was still sellers were in control. This wick is people getting filled on orders, nuking the price. Okay, well, you created a higher low, first of all. Like here, you know, you held, you didn't sweep this low. That means that buyers are trying to push this back up, and they do, and you get some resistance here. Sellers are trying to absorb buyers, but they can't. You get closes above, off you go. Rising volumes, buyers are stepping in, breakout traders are stepping in. Comes back, even this test here, you still have people getting filled on bids, but you know, it's already been played a few times, so it becomes weaker. And now it sells down, and now sellers are back in control. It's the same as this. You come back, sellers are in control. You come back, buyers are trying to push it up. You get a divergence, easy trigger for a short, sells off. Like 10%, right? So you can bet that the next time this comes and sweeps us like this, like you could use this level again if you wanted. Next time you come and you sweep these highs out and you consolidate above, you're going to pump. And if you just have this level on your chart and you look and it's like a top gainer, or you see volume on the bot, then boom, off you go. Yeah, exactly. So if you're playing 5 minute, just look for 5 minute closes above. If you're playing 15 minute, and I suggest if you're just playing around with this, like you're going to have so many more trades that don't go your way on 5 minute or 1 minute. It's just the nature of the game. The higher the time frame, the better the confirmation. So just do like 15 or 30 or 1 hour. And, you know, even if it is 1 hour, it's like you can have 1 or 2 15-minute candle closures above on good volume and use that as confirmation. It's just going to be different for every trader, but kind of the hard, fast rule is like if it's a 15-minute OB or a 15-minute supply demand, just wait for a 15-minute candle closure above. That's like your trigger, so long as you have also rising volume. So does this make sense to everyone how you can use the bots? And does anyone have any other questions on just like the breakout trades in general? Because I'm no expert in breakout trades either. Like I've only really started playing around with these the last little bit. But I am getting better at it, and I am starting to understand. And again, that comes from me spending time and back testing. I've sent my examples in the chats there. You know, I'll just go look at charts like this, and I'll just play around, and I'll understand what all these candles are trying to tell me. What is happening inside? Like, what is the story that this is telling me? And then, you know, I'll journal it, and I'll write what my triggers were, what the actual outcome was. Like what happens when there isn't volume versus when there is volume, things like that. Yeah, no problem, Kirby. When you back test, you choose a random coin. Yeah, 100%. Like I'll just back test like, 15, 20 random coins. And you could just, the thing is like, you could sit on this chart here and back test for hours. It's all you need. See this? This is demand. This was the last down block before the impulsive move up on 30-minute. Well, what happens when you test into it? That's where we held. Like here you had supply, because this was the last up candle before the move down, which like broke your structure here. And you can see this was another breakout trade you could have taken. Like you can backtest this on any chart, on any time frame, and just sit on one chart forever. But what happens, right? You get that sell off from there, and this was your 30-minute supply, but we're on 15-minute. Well, price tries to come up, little bit of candle closure, holds the bottom end of it, pushes up through, you have your confirmations here, and buyers are holding it. What happens? Rising volumes, you get a breakout, right? Like right here, same thing, exact same thing, 30% move. And then what happens? Just keep this block here. You test into it. Like, look at that, right? So buyers held here. The next time price tests into it, whatever, a week or two or however long that is, boom, you hold that. Just bring it over. You can bet that like we probably range in between here, if anything. The next time this comes in, boom. And if you lose this, it's the same thing, right? It's like, so you can just sit and back test on these, on any one chart forever. But, just this could have been a journal entry of a breakout trade. This could have also been a journal entry on a breakout trade. Guarantee there's something else up here too. Like, let's just look for example's sake. Just erase the chart here. All right, so 5 minutes. This was a 50-minute block. I'm just on 5 minute for execution. You can see the first time it touches into it, it is that resistance, right? And this block here was the last up candle before the move down, meaning that like this is supply. There's sellers here. There's orders waiting. First touch in, you can see instant rejection. We grind back up into it. We get like a big move up, rising volumes once again. And what happens? We consolidate a bit, but you have candle closures above. So even if you took this, for example's sake, I mean, when you get a candle closure this high above, you're just looking for a retest. So let's just say you took it there. Then you have like, I mean, like you probably would have got stopped on this one, just because this is a difficult one though, because that candle closure up there is like, you can't even really enter that. So you're looking to see what happens when price comes down here. But just for example's sake, right? Little difficult because you chop around, but you can just see that like, buyers are holding this. It's trending higher and higher and whatever. Say you enter in here, well, you catch the trade. And what happens the next time it comes down, touches, you can see the wick orders getting filled, because that's what it is. It's flipped from supply into demand. And then, yeah, that's what happens on these coins that go crazy. They just sell off. Like the people that push these coins up, like 50, 60%, they sell their spot bags up here, they fill their short orders, and they just like slowly walk the price down as they close out their orders. Because these are scam coins, so you have to kind of understand how they work. Coins don't just go 200-300% a day. It's big entities who are cornering the spot supply and putting negative funding and walking the charts up till they, end up dumping their full spot bags, and you see those minus 20, 30% candles instantly like this here. Clearly, whatever entity or whatever was walking this price up, they sold. Whatever price they wanted, they reached, and now they probably are short, and everyone's just trying to continue to ride this thing higher, and they're just selling into them all. Yeah, so to Kirby's point, like, let's go to that one breakout spot we were looking at. So this here. Okay, so this So there's two ways to enter a trade for a breakout. First of all, it's like you don't enter until you get, and just because you get a candle close above doesn't mean it's going to work out. But you have to understand that, like, statistically over a set of 100 trades, when you get candle closes above confirming that the supplier demand is like broken, you're going to catch a breakout trade, especially if you have rising volume, right? It's a game of numbers. It's like, just because it happens doesn't mean it's confirmed, but over 100 trades, you have 70 trades that statistically over and over are going to win. So that's the way it works. It doesn't just mean that, like, just because there's a candle close over, everything's confirmed and good to go. You could have Bitcoin shit the bed. You could have, any number of things happen. And so just because you get a candle closure above doesn't mean it's going to work. But for instance, what you want to see is either a sweep. So let me find a different chart, actually. I know GOAT had some good ones. All right, let's see. And you'll just be able to see over time too. It's like, you can just see this was like supply. You can see that price was capped here, and you can see that it broke out. You're only going to be able to do that if you like muscle memory, train your brain to like understand this, and like what happened with price over here. Yeah, look, it's like literally holding that, but it's looking like it's going to lose it. But anyways, if we come here, like, I think this was one I journaled, back testing. It's 15 minutes. Yeah, so you can see here, for instance, this would have been a false breakout. So you can see how many times it's rejected. Rejection. This was a candle close above. So you would have positioned, whatever, depending on low time frames. For the sake of this, just put it there. And, had like a 4 or 5% stop. Would have been targeting these highs. And what would have happened? Candle close above, deviates, and you take the stop. Not much you can do. You had some rising volumes, nothing drastic, but you had rising volumes. You had your candle closure above after multiple failures. You have all the triggers to take this trade. Well, just because you have the triggers doesn't mean that trading works out. You take the stop on this one. Now you can see it tests price again, and you can't be hesitant to take the trade again. This is part of trading. This is why you manage your risks. Say you're risking 1%. Okay, you lost 1%. Boo-hoo, cry about it. Now what happens here? Price comes up. You have even more increasing volume. Look at the difference. Here to here. That's like 2x the volume. Great. That looks great. You have a beautiful candle close here, confirming also demand here. And so you also get a retest here. You look to position. Say you get in, same spot, 5% stop. Again, you're targeting these highs. Okay, well, your 1% stop loss on a 5% move has now turned into, this one went crazy, but whatever. You target these highs, first of all. You catch a 20% move in, these are 15-minute candles, so I don't know, call that 3 hours, okay? And then what happens? Well, your breakout continues to rise in volume, and you catch a literal like 60, 50% move. So like, this is going to happen. You had all the triggers, you did everything right. There's not much you can do about it. I don't know what was going on in the market at this general time, but one thing that's important for breakout trades is understanding that, like, even on a day like today, if you're going to look for breakout trades, like, the market is garbage. You're not looking for breakout trades when Bitcoin looks like this. Unless Bitcoin dominance isn't where it's at. Bitcoin dominance, remember, is trending up. So Bitcoin can look like whatever it wants when Bitcoin dominance is trending down, and you can play any alt in any way that you want. because the dominance doesn't matter. But when Bitcoin looks like this and dominance is up the way it is, that's why I said every single breakout trade that I look at today is just this. The wick above, buyers get trapped and it just sells off. Every single one. It's just not the environment to be playing breakout trades. So you need to understand not only how to play breakout trades, but like when you want to play breakout trades. Now, if Bitcoin, like we talked about earlier, breaks out and like flips this, you can play any breakout you want because coins are going to go absolutely ballistic. Every single setup that looks like this is going to print and play massively. And something that I learned in this last leg up that I'm looking to do on the next one is when we actually break from this range, which I'm assuming we probably stay in for the next week or two. I don't think we just break out immediately. Like we're at a very large spot and we're going to need some reaccumulation or distribution, whatever ends up happening. But when we do break from that, say 2-3 week range, I'm not looking to TP my full thing here and just be like, oh, okay, quick trade, whatever. I'm looking to like stack as many of these as I can, take a TP1 at like this level, take a TP2 and just hold the rest and just continue to stack as many trades a day as I can like this and hold them until we get that next blow off, reach the top on Bitcoin. Because what I realized is that like so many coins, when we trended in this last spot with ETH BTC picking up, this isn't an anomaly. There were so many coins that ended up doing this. I mean, a bat signal is going to be like, a flip of 105, 106K with like 4-hour closures or daily. Like you'll definitely be able to see. And we'll all obviously be talking about it, native will. Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, any like real high time frame closures above 105, 105.5, 106 is like, a signal for that to happen. But yeah, I hope that answers your question in terms of like what happens if it closes above and then not. It's just going to happen because it maybe at this point in the market, what I'm trying to get at is this is not where you want to be playing breakouts. Even though this looks like textbook breakout, it's like maybe Bitcoin dominance was rising and Bitcoin was at resistance, right? Like it doesn't matter what kind of, and there is always going to be outliers that go absolutely crazy. But when they're going crazy, you're going to see volume go like this. Like this, you could probably play in anything. When it just goes from being absolutely dead to like being one of the coins that is going to be in the Woodsbot top volume things, yeah, you can probably play those and there'll be 1 or 2 a day on days like this versus every coin in the market going crazy when it did. But who knows what happens this day? You had your triggers, you took the L, it doesn't matter. Very strong level for us to flip, and you get the flip and, look what happens. So, and again, you guys can even just do it at any point. Like if we just go 5 minute. So like homework, I just challenge you guys to just go into your charts and like play around. Where was I just looking? Yeah, so here. Right. Different ways to do it. Use the wicks. Right? You swept here. You come up. You get a candle close. So you probably could have even or would have even positioned. You probably have your stops like 5-ish%, which I suggest probably like 5% stops on these volatile coins. And you have rising volumes. Kind of looks like you're going to fade out, but, you don't. And off you go. And even if you missed that whole move right there that I talked about, you just get in at the next one. It doesn't matter. Like these coins that go, they go. Just look for the same triggers. It doesn't matter if the coin's up 100, 200%. Like some coins just go crazy. This coin ran for like whatever, 30%. Most people would see a coin up 30% and try to fade it just because what goes up must come down. Well, no, it doesn't work like that. And so you just wait. Like it has this little reaccumulation phase here. This little range. And, it's the same thing, right? It's like this is just a range. Buyers, sellers. sellers, buyers, sellers, buyers, sellers. You sweep. You don't sweep the lows. So like this is important also with structure. You sweep here and you reject, but you still put in a higher low. Buyers don't want this to go down. You don't sweep this and reject and go down like this. Then yeah, that'd be shit. That'd be over. And then you could look to short this breakdown. But you know what happens? Buyers are walking the price up. Understand what candles are telling you. Buyers are literally walking the price up. This like trend line. And what happens? You have rising volumes into the breakout. You get your sweep. You get your candle closure above. As small as it is, it still closes above. You enter that trade. And yeah, you catch the next leg for another 32%. So lots of ways to get in on these. And just let me know if this is all making sense for you guys. Because it's like using the bots is one thing, but then this is kind of like more technical analysis stuff. So just want to make sure you guys understand it. And feel free to do your own back testing and shoot it in the chat and like tag me. I can like take a look at it. Or if you have questions on a specific order block or supply demand, whatever. By these areas, but struggle with knowing when it's a legit breakout or just gonna play the range, but I'll keep working on it. Thanks, man. Always helpful. Yeah, and so there's two ways to like confirm a trade for a breakout. And that's gonna be either whatever, just say this is your level. This is the type of price action you're gonna see. And just say this wick is like what we're looking at. Actually, you know what? I can do this. Okay, there's two ways to play a breakout. Either you're going to see price do this and sweep and close back below and like put in a new lower high like this and then reclaim. And that's where you take the trade with your stops under here. Or what you're going to get is not just a clean sweep, but you're going to get like a big impulse up, right? And then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to bid the flip of the level, right, with stops under like whatever. So there's two different ways. Either you get the big impulse up on like rising volumes and you're like, oh shit, I missed it. Candle closes up here. Like no way I can enter. All you do is either set a limit for here or just wait. Wait for 1 5-minute divs or whatever triggers you look for, and set stops below like some structure. Or you're going to get the sweep and rejection just like this, sweep and rejection. It's too deep for a stop, for example's sake though, because of the volatility of this coin. So just say that this swept and then put in price like this, that you would enter on the candle closures above here on rising volume, put your stops there and do that. And then the same here is like, okay, you impulsed up, you have rising volumes, candle closes up here, and you're just like, okay, no way for me to enter. All you do is either bid DCA on this area or just market enter when price comes back in. Let me know if that makes sense. This is like, again, all stuff that I've learned from in WG. So I'm just like passing this on. This isn't like stuff that, you know, I developed or came up with, but this is generally too, just like in general, they didn't create it either. This is just how you play breakouts. So, but always make sure you have rising volumes, because it doesn't matter if you get either of these and volumes, for instance, look like this and they just, you know, dying off, it's like it doesn't matter. Just avoid the coin and go find one with volume. Use our bots, use top gainers, and just look for something that looks good.